Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy 1 Star Week for the We are back again for another video, back-to-back videos for the first time, and it's great because that's how you know FIFA 21 is coming back. And just like last year, I look forward to give you guys daily content, daily uploads as much as possible, maybe even 2 videos in a day. I mean, we'll see about that. But as always, this is all thanks to you guys, so big ups to everybody watching this video. I really appreciate it. As you guys know, EA did drop the top 1,000 players of FIFA 21, which is essentially the part of the database we need. It's going to give us all the information as to which players to look out for, everything like that. So I decided to look at the top 1,000 database. I went through the entire thing, looked at all the players, and I selected 20 cheap beasts for you guys to look out for when the game drops. A lot of this is dependent on the meta. I assume that the meta is still going to be pace, dribbling, physical, stuff like that. I mean, from FIFA to FIFA, the meta does change, but the players that are effective really do stay similar. So that's based on this. As always, if you're enjoying the content, do me a favor and hit the like button down below. So just like yesterday's video, we will be starting with the attackers. And the first attacker that stood out to me, or that jumped off the page to me, was Porto. He's somebody that plays in La Liga. He's 83 rated. He's a right wing, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a couple things that really jump out to me with him. The first is that he can play multiple positions very well. He has 90 pace. He has 82 passing, if I'm not mistaken. 79 shooting. I mean, personally, I would play him at the striker position. I wouldn't even bother playing him at winger. But he could play the cam position very well with that passing. I do question how cheap he's gonna be. I'm guessing at the first week or two of FIFA, especially when Weekend League drops, he will be around 15 to 20k at least, especially since he's 83 rated. But I do think he's somebody that you should reach for, somebody that's gonna be good to be the main guy in your cheap Weekend League side. So I definitely thought it was worth including him. The next one we will be talking about here is somebody that was also a great starter striker in FIFA 20. It's going to be Rebic. I think he plays from Milan down, but when you look at his stats, he hasn't gotten much of a downgrade at all. He pretty much looks almost identical to FIFA 20 Rebic, and really he brings very similar qualities. He has 88 pace, 80 shooting. I believe his physical is also in the 80s. So he's going to be somebody that's very well rounded, somebody who could play multiple positions once again, somebody who could play in many different styles. I mean, he could get in behind, he could hold the ball up, he could win some headers, and of course he's going to be very reliable around the box. So no matter what the meta is, I think he's a very safe option. The next attacker I'm going to talk about here is a winger. He actually plays in the championship. It's going to be Midfield. And he's somebody that's always a great starter game winger, no matter which year it is. I think since FIFA 18, I've been using him as an early game winger. The only difference now is that because Watford has gotten relegated to the championship, he may be a little bit harder to link. But he's Spanish. And if you do have a La Liga team, if you do have maybe a few championship players floating in around your starting lineup, I definitely think he's worth bringing in. I mean, he's going to have the standard cheap winger stats with a 90 in pace, 70s in shooting and passing. But what he does bring that a lot of other players don't have is that true class on the ball. If he feels anything like FIFA 20, FIFA 19 Midfield, you're in for a treat. Another player I want to talk about here is going to be going back to La Liga. It's going to be another striker. His name is Avila, and he had a great year on the low last year. I mean, nobody was talking about him aside from La Liga supporters, but he did get a much needed upgrade. He's expected to have a 5-star weak foot, which is going to make him even more meta, and he brings a lot of great things to your side. He's going to have the pace, the physicality, and of course the 5-star weak foot in front of net. Unfortunately, in real life, he's gotten the ACL injury from what I remember, so he's not really somebody that's going to be getting informs and informs unless he comes back from the ACL injury pretty early. But I do think for a starter squad, look no further. Do not sleep on the Villa. I think I will be going for a Villa myself. Spoiler alert on the RTG. But you know, things do change, so that's somebody I am looking at. Next, we're going to talk about Diogo Jota, the new signing from Liverpool. And I do think he's going to be somebody that a lot of people sleep on, not because of his stats, because his stats are very solid. You could compare him to Richarlison and Really, they're both very, very similar cards, especially with the 5-star weak foot. Why I think people will sleep on him is because he's Portuguese. He's not somebody that's going to be starting for Liverpool. He's not somebody that's a terribly popular card. So if you are looking for a 5-star weak foot attacker in the Premier League that can play a multitude of different positions just like he can in real life, I think Jota is somebody not to sleep on and somebody definitely worth bringing into your first weekend league. Another Portuguese player we are going to talk about here is going to be a winger I used for a while at the beginning of last FIFA 20 legend Gelson Martins. He's another player that seems to really be a starter game player for every FIFA that I've played foot in. And what he really brings to your side is a poor man's Douglas Costa. He has the 5-star skills, the 3-star weak foot that Douglas Costa brings. He's just on the other side of the pitch. Douglas Costa is a left winger. He's a right winger, but he does bring a lot of the same qualities. He does have the bad finishing in front of the net that Douglas Costa does have. And if you need a winger with some 5-star skills that can bring it up and down the pitch very effectively, I suggest trying to give this guy a spin. For the next player, we are bringing it back to La Liga. It's going to be Kevin Gamero. And once again, he is a classic FIFA starter game player because he's French. He's normally La Liga, and he has decently well-rounded stats. This year is no coincidence. He has 86 pace, 78 shooting, decent dribbling, decent in the air. Once again, no matter what the meta is, I expect this guy to be very decent, very solid starter quality player, and somebody you should definitely look at when the game drops. Speaking of classic starter game strikers, you can look no further than Alex Teixeira. He's pretty much been in every foot as a starter game player as long as he was in foot. Because there were a few years he went to the Chinese league, he wasn't in foot. But last year he was a beast. This year, stat-wise, he looks like a beast again, and he just seems like a broken card. He has the pace. He's probably going to have the 4-star combination again. Decent shooting, decent passing, can play a multitude of different positions. He could play on the wing or centrally. And he's Brazilian, so he's not that hard to link. Because of the fact he plays for a Chinese league, I expect him to be cheap, but it doesn't mean he will be lacking in quality at all. Finally, we'll be talking about yet another foot 20 legend, Morales. He's a La Liga striker again. I'm very much inclined to looking at La Liga as my first league this year. I think it's between them and Ligue 1 as the league I want to start with, because La Liga, based on this top 1,000 player list, has a lot of cheap beasts. Morales is one of them. Once again, he's very versatile no matter what the meta is. He has the pace, the physical, the shooting ability in front of net, and as far as cheap strikers go, that's exactly what you want. We're going to be moving backwards down the pitch now. We're hitting the midfield, and the first one I'm going to be talking about is the 5-star skilling Polish player that's featured for Napoli, Zielinski. And a lot of people sleep on him because of his nationality, because of his league, but yo, look at his stats. He's very well rounded. He has the 5-star weak foot. He could play as a cam, he could play as a CM, he could play as an attacking CDM, and for cheap players, that's really what you want. Somebody that's versatile, somebody that could do a lot of a little bit, if not, or a little bit of a lot, if that makes sense. And I definitely think you should give this guy a go. Speaking of which, we have another foot 20 card that was great at the beginning of the year. It's going to be Fred, and he's gotten an upgrade. Well, actually, no, he's gotten a downgrade. He's 81 rated. His stats are very similar to last year. What worries me about him is that he's Manchester United. He's Brazilian. He's Premier League. He may be a little bit more expensive than I'm anticipating, but if you're looking for some true quality in your midfield, especially going into your first weekend league, I definitely think Fred is somebody that really could change a few people's games. Next, we're going to be talking about the French midfielder. It's going to be Nkunku from Leipzig, and he has a very good card. He has very well-rounded stats, and he's somebody that could feature for a lot of people's teams, whether they're playing Ligue 1, Bundesliga, Premier League. Because of his French nationality, he makes these hybrids possible. He's very well-rounded. Once again, he could play cam at the stretch. He could play CM, CDM. He has the 4-star skills. He looks like a lot of fun to use, and he's definitely going to be on my radar for early game midfielders. And we're going to bring it back to the Chinese league because we have another Brazilian from the Chinese league to talk about, Talisca. And I remember when he was playing in different leagues, but now he's in Chinese league, and ever since he is or he was added to the Chinese league, he's been a cheap beast, the cheap man's Pogba. This year he looks no different, and if you bring him and Talisca into the same side, I mean, suddenly chem is no longer an issue. Talisca has a lot going for him. He has the pace, the physicality that Pogba brings. What separates him though is his shooting. I think he has 80 shooting. So I know a lot of people early game are going to bring him in to even play striker, to play cam. But he does have the versatility needed to play CM. Even as an attacking CDM, I think he'll be not bad. So I definitely think he's one to keep on your radar, especially as his price drops. We are going to be talking about our first Everton player today on this video. It's going to be Bombing. As you guys know, he's been injured all year. He's still injured. I mean, this guy's had injury after injury after injury. We bought a whole new midfield because he's been injured. But in FIFA, it doesn't seem like it's affected his stats at all. He has a very similar card to last year. And what makes him stand out, aside from the other cheap CDMs on this game, is the fact that he's 6'2". He has 78 pace. He has great physical stats, and he's no slouch as far as passing and defense go. I do think he's actually going to be one of the better CDMs at the beginning of the game. The drawbacks with this card, of course, are going to be the fact that he doesn't really have any great strong links. I mean, he has some decent ones in Richarlison and Doucouré and Digne, but nobody that you would really call top flight meta. On top of that, he's also from the Ivory Coast, so there's not really many hybrid options available there. But he's definitely one to keep in mind if you're running the Premier League. And our final midfielder for this video is going to be the one and only Renato Sanchez. I don't know what it is about him, but it just seems to grind out really nice overpowered cards every year. This year's no different. He pretty much looks very similar to Nkunku. He looks very similar to Fred. But there's something about Renato Sanchez. Is it the dreads? Is it the body type? There's been a lot of theories on it, but he just seems to feel overpowered in-game. I expect him to do that in FIFA 21. We're moving backwards again, back towards the back of the pitch. It's going to be the defenders we're talking about, and the first one is a FIFA 20 legend. A FIFA 19 legend if you weren't sleeping on him, but more so a FIFA 20 legend. Atal. He's gotten a very versatile card again, and even if you don't run a League One side, I think he's somebody that you really want to bring into your team as a super sub. I mean, he could pretty much play any position with these stats. He's going to have the 5-star weak foot again, the 4-star skills. And I do think he's worthwhile to have as a super sub. As you guys have known, if you play FUT Champs in any FIFA, super subs can often win or lose you games, and I think Atal is going to be one to win you games. Next, we're going to talk about another Manchester United player. It's going to be Lindelof. He's gotten a downgrade. He's now an 80 rated card, but his stats would still look pretty decent, especially at the start of the game. The one thing that he does lack is that aerial presence, and in FIFA, he's going to lack that. So if headers are a thing, he may be somebody that you want to pair with a bigger player. Otherwise, he looks like a very, very tidy starting center back and somebody that's going to link with a lot of meta cheap players. So I think he's definitely worth a shout. And we're going to bring it back to the La Liga. We're bringing it back to La Liga once again. We have two defenders to talk about, and the first one is going to be Hermoso. He's somebody I used for a long time at the beginning of last FIFA. And they've downgraded him, but not that much. I mean, he still has 75 pace. He still has respectable physical and defensive stats. I remember last year they made him a high-medium card, which made him somebody that a lot of people didn't like to play. I personally didn't really notice it being an issue, but if you're somebody who's anal about defensive work rates, keep that one in mind. The next La Liga defender we're going to be talking about here is going to be Koundé. I think I'm saying his name correctly. He had a breakout year for Sevilla, and chances are by the time the game drops, he might be a Man City player. But as of now, we're going to be talking about him in the La Liga because he has a very nice card. He has the pace, the dribbling, even. I would say his dribbling stats are very decent. He has great defensive and physical stats, and because he's French, he's going to link to a lot of great players. He's going to make a lot of hybrids possible, everything like that. And the final defender, the final player we're going to talk about today is going to be another French center back, Upamecano. He was a cheap beast last year, and he's gotten a well-deserved upgrade this year. So that makes him a very, very nice card. One of the better center backs in Bundesliga. One of the better French center backs on this game. And once again, he makes the hybrids possible. So definitely look out for these cards. Alright guys, so that's going to be my top 1000 reaction video. I've given you some cheap beasts to look at. Let me know if I've missed anybody. Let me know in the comment section down below. Have you started building your teams? I think the next video I'll be discussing different cheap teams you could build with these top 1000 players. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video, but until then,